Building trust is quite simply just doing the things that you say you're going to do. And so be bold, hold your own standard, share those things and follow through. It's a great way of doing it, and everyone feels good knowing what's coming up. Something that I deal with every week, every day, really, for advisors and teams of advisors is consistency with the standards of the business. What do I mean? Like baseline driving revenue, the input. I'm talking about reach outs to clients, follow ups to prospects. I'm talking about making sure I've got enough meetings on the book. Am I following through with, once I've got the first meeting on the book, does the client get how does the client get the next follow up? As I hand it over to my team, how do I know that nothing's falling through the cracks? And when it's on the client, do they know that it's on the client? And when does the team follow up? Do I have my closing calls? Like all of that process overall can be taken into account with a robust team, the right people, and a good CRM, a good system. And we want to go back to the basics. So I call this the no drop system, a way in which that we are able to understand conceptually that you can teach this through your team as to how we think about follow through. Look, we want to keep it really simple here, right? This is essentially all about thinking about the future date, right? So this no drop system can be used anywhere across your team, for anyone in your team, and different types of client sets or prospect sets. The idea is, the point is here that everything's based on that future date. So we know at any given point that there's going to be a follow-up as well. So you can have a version of this which is just for your advisory clients, like here's how I want to package my advisory clients and focus on them this year. I know how the relationship is set up with them. Or it could be for onboarding clients. It could be for prospects that are coming in, to make sure we've got the right follow-up to build trust and do the things we need to do. The concept is really simple, right? We're not going to drop anything from this, and we're thinking about the future date is how we think about it. So real simple. Step number one, you've got to define, okay, well, what are we using this particular version for, right? And this lives in Excel to start, and then we can move it after that to a preferred tracking system, something more autonomous perhaps in a CRM. But this point is really to understand and teach the reason why it's important to think through. This is about teaching the mindset about the follow through, right? Such that if there are any gaps in our system, we can make sure that we kind of bolster in there, right? Because we know we're not going to rise to the level of our goals. We are going to fall to the level of our systems. And so putting this in place. So for this particular one, let's think about it from an advisory point of view as well. So if we're with your own advisory clients, you might even split those, depending on the size of your firm, between Platinum, ABC, or whatever the nomenclature is that you might be using. And so one particular example was from a client of mine this week, had top 50 clients. And he said, I want to meet with them 4 times a year. I want to have 12 touches in the year, but I want to meet with them 4 times a year. So the 4 things that he actually has to do in terms of the meetings to follow through as well. And so every person goes on the spreadsheet that is in that list, and we understand exactly what the requirement is for that, right? So understanding your capacity is important as well if you haven't done that up front. And it might be that, look, any given one advisor, really between 50 and 150 relationships is the kind of maximum you can get to in terms of really being able to serve them at the highest level where you feel good about it. I did have someone this week tell me that, wow, he noticed that the best meeting of the day was the one at the end of the day because that meeting didn't have a limit to it. So he's able to go where he needed to go with that client and continue to add value because he didn't have to rush off and get to the next call as well. So understanding capacity is super important. Using the spreadsheet and thinking about it in the context, the most important part, as we talked about already, is the follow-up date as well. So the spreadsheet needs to show rather, when was the last time we met with this client or prospect? In this case, advisory client. When are we planning to meet with them again? And really understand what that looks like. And then part of that is that an example I gave, I want to meet with these people 4 times. But you also need to agree that makes sense with them. Like, okay, so you're the expert. Hey, amazing client. I've worked with you for decades. I want to make sure that I'm meeting with you 4 times a year for X, Y, and Z reasons. So it's really clear about what that is. And that also goes in the spreadsheet. So whoever is using this spreadsheet, and it's not you, high-level advisor, right? It's going to be someone else on your team. That's the point of this. So you can just show up for these meetings. Has a clarity and understanding that this client is going to meet this, you're going to meet in this amount of times, but this is what they prefer, how they prefer it, what the cycle looks like as well. And so real simply thinking about when's the next step. So let's just say you have the first or last interaction with this client on the 15th of March. and they're an annual client, meaning that you've agreed that what you want to give them is this one meeting a year, and that's best for you and them right now. That's the biggest outcome that you're going to get. Then we want to set it that we reach out in 10 months' time. So whoever's running the spreadsheet can also say, okay, the next follow-up date will be mid-April of the following year. So it gives them 2 months wiggle room to get that booked and move in there. You could also add in, when you meet with a client and say that they already know it's going to happen, we're going to put this placeholder on the calendar, or my team's going to put this placeholder on the calendar. They're also going to reach out to you 2 months before. Why is this powerful? Why is it important? Everyone knows where they are. Even if it's a year in advance, that client walks away, even if you've got a good relationship already and you've been with them for a long time, they walk away thinking, oh, he promised me something. I trust that he's going to do it. And guess what? When you do it, they say, oh, look, they did it. And that builds even more trust as well. And building trust is quite simply just doing the things that you say you're going to do. And so be bold, hold your own standard, share those things and follow through. It's a great way of doing it. And everyone feels good knowing what's coming up. And you feel you're free to add in the specific value for that client as well. So the person that manages it should always be thinking about, how do I actually use it on a day-to-day basis? We should always be just looking for that day, right? So if we have all these clients and let's say we fast forward a year, it happens to be mid of January, then you filter for the mid of January and you might have like 1 or 5 or 10 things to do that day because that's the date you set. So the system itself gives you the date to work on as well. So again, the core idea here is, rather than remembering follow-ups or using a CRM, which you absolutely can do to get down the line, we want to understand the concept first of how we think about what the follow-ups are. Every time you meet with someone, here's the baseline. Every time you meet with someone, you're either going to meet them again or you're never going to meet them again. Right. And in this context, if you're never going to meet them again, like they shouldn't be anywhere near what we're looking about here. Like the different part here perhaps will be to think about what drip system they're on, some sort of nurture sequence as well. But for the context here of like immediate follow-ups with clients that are already existing or prospects that are ready to go, there's always going to be a specific follow-up that you're going to do as well. And so we're always making sure that when we're having that conversation about the meeting that we're in right now, we always know when the next follow-up is going to be. This system helps to underpin that overall. So everything has a future update date, and that's how we know the spreadsheet is up to date. And so this is the key point here, that as we actually use this on a day-to-day basis, we know whether it's up to date or not because we're checking the future date. If a client doesn't have, or a prospect doesn't have a future update date, we know that it's out of date and it immediately becomes something that we've got to work on. And that way you're not jumping around going, where was this person? How do I follow up? What does it look like? All right, so what does the spreadsheet itself look like? Really simple version of what we just talked about. So in this particular example, you could even have like multiple in the same spreadsheet in terms of types of clients relationships here. And for the example we're using, which is the advisory client, we're going to just click advisory client. In this example, we've got one in there. Last interaction with this client was 3:15. So next interaction, if it's an annual client, is going to be 3:15 the following year. So next reach out is set for in 10 months time as well. So it just has the client name, perhaps the relationship. You can use it, multiple different advisors can use the same spreadsheet if you want, or you could create different instances. It's super customizable. Again, once you feel like this is really robust, there's absolutely CRMs that you can move this into. This is a baseline. So it might be appropriate for where your business is now. Your business might be further along in maturity, and there could be something that you're just not doing anymore. It's worth resetting it back. Maybe you've got new team members, but understanding this basic version of it really will underpin the culture that you're building in your team to how we follow up and what that looks like overall. And then so what happens is, in any given day, the person that's working the spreadsheet will just flick to today's date, and that's how they'll know what to do that day, who they can reach out to, and who they're adding value to on that particular day. So important, the no drop system, to avoid those moments when you're in the middle of the night and you're like, wake up, you're like, man, did I follow up with that person? When you're in your shower, like trying to wash your hair and thinking, oh, what happened to that guy? Or, what happened to the Smiths that I've been clients with them for 10 years? When was the last time I met with them? And just knowing that certainty allows you that extra level of conviction as a high level advisor to go into those meetings and deliver the highest value. Now, is not having this going to prevent you adding the value that you are as advisor? No. but it might bring down your conviction a few percentage points. And so I believe if you're watching this, you're listening to this, you want to have a high level business, you want to hold your standards high, you want to be a 7-figure advisor and beyond, you don't want to compromise time with your family or working on your health, and you want to have that efficient business to make sure the system support the person, an advisor, the company, and your clients and your family in the way that you must have it.